Hey, book babes. I'm Aubrey.
And I'm Peyton.
And today we are reviewing Lauren Roberts' Reckless.
Yeah, so jump with a cup of coffee as we dive between these paper sheets. Let's do this. Alrighty, hey everyone. Welcome to another book review. This is our NS section, non-spoiler section, but not for Powerless. So Reckless is the second book in her series thus far. I don't even know what the whole what's the series name called?
Is it just the Powerless series? I think it's a trilogy.
They
The
always name it
trilogy.
something else. Okay, whatever. The power. You've heard it. Lauren
Yeah, she
Roberts,
doesn't have
Powerless.
anything on here.
This is a spoiler warning for Powerless. We're going to openly talk about that book during this whole episode. So if you
Yes.
haven't read that, go watch that. We did a book review on that and then come back for Reckless. But this is our NS section for Reckless. If you have yet to read it and want to see if it's worth it, we're going to spill those beans right now. But yeah, Aubrey always starts us off with a kind of like where we are plot recap thus far.
Yes. So we pick back up in this world with Paiton hurt and hiding in her old home after killing the king. But Kai, the prince, has been sent on a mission by the new king, Kit, to find her and potentially her. Which she begins by burning down the house that she is currently in. He doesn't know that, but he begins by burning down her childhood home.
That first chapter is great.
And chasing her out of the city once he realizes she was in that house. And Peyton embarks on crossing the, what is it called? Like the scorch torches or something. I don't know. The sandy lands.
The desert.
In order to escape the enforcer's wrath.
Just the desert. Yeah.
The desert.
aka the desert. It was giving Selena crossing the desert in Assassin's Blade, if anyone's ever read those books. But
the scorches.
yes, we get thrown headfirst into the action in this book, and it's funny because when we did our Powerless review, how that book ends and how traumatic it is, blah blah blah. I remember in the podcast saying, "Oh my god, my favorite part of the book is at the end." When Kai comes in and they search the whole house. I mean, did not anyone think to look up into a fucking fireplace?
Yeah.
Anyways, and what I thought was part of Powerless, but also is just like the first chapter of the next book, basically.
Yeah. It was just like a little teaser tucked into the end of
I'm like,
Powerless.
this was the best. The ending was amazing when he goes, I'm happy I didn't find you because I'm not ready yet. Like, basically, I'm not ready to become your enemy because I love you. Which was like so impactful and so amazing. But turns out, as I read the first chapter of Reckless, there was the chapter.
So if you watch that video and you watch Aubrey just kind of like sitting there, it's just because I didn't want to correct her because I wasn't sure. Like, I wasn't sure if I just missed like a second epilogue or what was going on. So I was just like, and then later I checked because on the Kindle, like it was a mess. Anyways,
yes, but
so we came into this.
I was excited.
We came into this book so excited.
Yes,
I think even we need to roll back the tape to that episode where I said I didn't like this book. I gave Powerless 2 stars, but I said I'm really excited for Reckless. I think Reckless could be like a 4-star read. I think the end could pump up to 5 stars potentially. Like, it's not my favorite thing, but I was so excited for this book. So let me tell you, when I hated this book, I hated it. I hated it makes me physically angry. And when we get into the spoiler section, we are going to have a 5-minute let Aubrey be mean time. Because
she needs it.
Because there's just a lot, even the opening that we just talked about. We went into this feeling good. She started good in the premise and what could have happened. And then without spoilers, missed the mark every other chapter after. So let's get I think the most unfortunate thing about this book, let's get into the storytelling and plot of this book.
Yes.
Because I think that's where even people who really loved Powerless got to this book, got to the plot of this book, and was like, well,
Yeah, yeah. And of course, without any spoilers, the thing you need to know right away is this book is boring. And
yeah.
why is it boring? Because it is so dang repetitive. I felt like
Mhm.
I was reading the same chapter over and over and over again. And a lot of times I can be a spaced out reader. I listened to some of this, so I was like,
Mhm.
there's that audiobook fatigue that everyone kind of knows about. But
Yeah.
not only talking to Aubrey about this, but actually some other readers in the community, I was like, "Oh, wait, it's not just me." Okay, I felt very affirmed, and so now
Yeah.
I'm very, like, strongly have an opinion on this, is that it was a filler book, but why did this filler book have to be 500 pages long? And what's funny is I'm gonna just ad lib this in here real quick. Is that I watched one of her TikToks today, and she wanted this book to be like fluffy. I'm sorry, if you're writing a fantasy series, there's no reason there is no reason for you to
Yeah.
be adding a fluffy book. That's what novellas are for, and you already released one of those. So
It pisses me off so much.
I am not like a hater in any means, but in this instant, I'm sorry. I feel like it's very warranted, and I think the true fantasy and romantasy readers, especially her being one, can understand where we're at. Like this,
Yeah.
like then call it a romance book. Like it's not
I
fantasy then.
no, I think unfortunately she she plotted this book when she was 18, like the whole trilogy. And she talks about in her TikToks like, "Hey, when I wrote Powerless, there's things in there that I would have changed now
Fair,
as a
love
more
that.
experienced author."
Hmm.
Absolutely. You were a more experienced author when you came to sat down with Reckless. Powerless was also indie published first. And so I get that like when Simon and Schuster picked up Powerless, there was only so much changes they could make because the book was already out there in people's hands. Even Atlas 6 is another book where it's like they might have made more edits had the team had it to begin with and people weren't expecting a certain story and they had to like adhere to that. I am so pissed off at the existence of this book and at Simon and Schuster for letting this come to fruition. I understand that when she plotted the book, she had a place she wanted to start the book at, and she had a place that she wanted the book to end at. I get it. But when her editor saw the outline for this book, and Payne's already heard me say this because I can't keep it in. When her
It's
editor
right.
got the outline for this book and saw that it was the same thing happening over and over and over again, saw that things happened that didn't make any fucking sense, that we are just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks, and none of it was sticking. Why did her professional editors not sit her down and say, hey, let's add a B plot? Let's
Yes.
add stakes to the
Yes.
story that has
Hmm.
zero stakes. You are writing a romantasy, even a YA romantasy. Half of the plot should be fantasy. There's not half of this plot that's fantasy. And there should be stakes. You don't write fluff for a second book in a series.
It's so funny because even like Jennifer L. Armentrout, who has a million books, and we tease her all the
Yeah.
time that like we're kind of over the series. She still adds in that like, oh crap, like oh crap,
Yeah.
oh, like it does. She still can like pick that shit up, and so for a book where like second book is really when you settle into the series. You kind of get your pacing
Mhm.
of what we're
Yeah.
going to be looking like, and especially if it's going to be like a trilogy, you're like, "Oh wow, the second book is usually the meat of the story." And then the
Yes.
third book is like the big war or the big battle or like,
Mhm.
kind of the end, how the second one ends. Like, of course we're going to end on a cliffhanger. It's the second book in a series, but like
Yeah.
I didn't think all of the good shit was going to be in the last bit of the book. So, this is just a lot of great things to keep in mind when reading this book, that I personally was incredibly bored. I also
Mhm.
feel like, Aubrey, you read this kind of in one sitting, where mine
A
was
lot of
really
it.
dragged out.
Mhm.
And since you read a big chunk of it, like I just like in our book club books a lot, we'll read 300-page books. I can read that in a
Yeah.
day. But sometimes I feel disconnected from it because I only read a certain bit every week. And I feel like
Mhm.
if you don't consume a book fully in like one sitting or in 2 days or
Yeah.
whatnot, sometimes you can, there's those gaps in our minds and we're like, oh, I don't really remember that. That didn't stick out. But when you actually make time to read a book in its entirety, I feel like you actually have an even better understanding and like able to have an opinion. So if Aubrey's
Yeah.
opinion is this this like F level tier, um it's alarming. Um yeah, so
Yeah.
repetitive, plot,
Mm.
divisive, they're not there. It's just a
Mm.
lot of the same stuff over and
It's
over again.
and that kinda
Yeah.
leads me into characters.
Yes.
Because something that I realized at the end of this book is something that I originally loved in Powerless because Payne and I were talking. We went into this and we're like, what are nice things we can say? What did we enjoy? And a
Yeah.
friend of ours at book club was saying, something that I really like about this world is the characters. I think that like the fact that Kai is a morally gray villain that actually like kills people and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he's not a soft boy in disguise, which I think this book kind of but I did truly love these characters. I think that's why people latched onto Powerless so strongly is because the characters were so strong. So if the other things weren't as good, that's fine. The characters in this book do not change. And I don't mean that in like a good way. I mean, there is no arc for these characters. They had no emotional growth. They had no like external arc. These characters are the same exact people that they were on page 1 of Powerless. And
Especially Peyton.
they try to act like they changed because they like are fighting in this book and they haven't. They so clearly haven't changed a single inch. How the fuck do you write a book? And sorry, this is my main section yet, but like I think part of the plotting process should include like character growth.
Yeah. Yeah, and I could see that in essence of like even if it's character turmoil, like kid in this book obviously is going through like, is he gonna become the villain? Is he actually
Yes,
gonna do better than his dad?
there's a
Like
character that
and I
changes.
say I it's so funny because in fantasy books, and if you don't know, every chapter is told by either Peyton, Kai, or Kit. So, and it's
Mhm.
kind of nice to kind of see in this book. I really didn't mind it. I think because I just didn't like it at all.
Yeah.
But, but Kit's, I actually look forward to Kit's chapters more than the love interest, which is totally backwards for me. I usually look forward to the love interest, but I
Mhm.
was just so tired of them by the end of the book that I was actually like craving something more like political or like actually to the
Yeah.
plot than just this whole banter. So expect a lot of banter. And if that's what you want in a book, just a bunch of banter and back and forth and
Mhm.
pretending, please, this is like your sort of buffet. But yes, also going off
Oh,
of that, writing style and along with writing style, how she was able to incorporate world building into that.
dude,
Thoughts, feelings.
I think that this is a skill issue. I think truly that it is a skill issue. I think she dropped out of college to write Powerless and like maybe she should have taken a few more creative writing classes. You know what I mean? Like
The thing is,
like I
Powerless isn't that badly
no, but
written. That's the funny thing here.
here's I no, and I think at like a sentence craft level, I think she's doing a fine job. Like I don't have any issue with her sentence craft,
Like
which is
she can
where
lay down some beats. You're like, oh, okay, cool.
yes, but I think her ability put it all together, to put it all together in a way, um,
That's good.
yeah, yeah. Like, I'm so struggling with words because I'm trying not to be a total bitch, and I know I am, y'all. I know I am. I can't. Almost filmed this like 4 days ago at like the start of my period, and that would have been such a worse episode. Like this is me calmed down a little bit
This is me
from
simply
finishing this book.
reflecting.
This is me reflecting. I think that not a lot of critical thought went into the world building or any at all. I saw a video of her because of course she's on the press tour right now. And they asked her about a thing from this book and she goes, "Well, in my head." And like basically her answer was like I didn't think about it. And I don't want to say more because I don't want to spoil it. We're not there yet. But what do you think of
I have to say, like in the first book, I had a really keen understanding of what this world was and the like
Mhm.
Hunger Game-esque version of it, and how there's like ordinaries and then people with powers. And in the next book we were like like we like chucked it out the window. I'm like,
Well,
which
let's
and did I not know about this town where ordinaries lived? Like, I thought if you were ordinary to begin with, you were done. Like, and like now,
Yeah.
I don't know. So, regardless, I was confused, and this is actually a very simple book to read. And I read like complex world systems, and I don't know why I had such a hard time understanding this one. Once again, that has a lot to do with world building and how
Yes.
you show us those worlds. But I
Let's
do know that these two characters like to kiss and pretend.
these two characters like
Love
one
to argue.
another. Let's
They're
let's take
very
a quick look
horny.
at the map, okay?
Oh god.
We got an extended version of the map
I
today
haven't
in
looked at
this
it
book.
once. I haven't needed
Um,
to.
you know what's so funny about this? Is that this is supposed to be like an entire continent, but each country is just like one city. And it took them like 3 days to cross the desert. Why were we told that the desert was so horrible to cross?
Oh, I
Peyton crossed
know.
with 0 supplies. She
She
had one
crossed.
water canteen on her.
Yeah, she crossed and she was there. And then she apparently had all this leadway on him. And the next day he's like, oh, I made it to the town. It's like, why are these cities so close together when you guys make them seem like they're worlds apart?
And that they're separate kingdoms. People don't
Yeah.
have powers in the other cities.
I'm sorry. Like,
And I
it feels like it's an hour away. And if I went an hour away, people, like, we don't have different accents. Like, they're gonna
yeah.
sound like they're from fucking Pennsylvania. It's
Like
like,
if they had cars in this world, they could travel to a city in like 2 hours, I think. Like if they had a nice highway, a nice turnpike set up,
yeah, the nice
um
turnpike
it
with
just
some
it
easy pass in there.
I
They'd be there really
also
quick.
you'd be traveling all around. I also real quick, and this is not like my place to say much about it, but I did get a weird feeling when we go to the city of Dor. I think that's how you say it. I have no clue.
Yeah, door.
Uh, and one of the first, like, clearly, this is a very like Middle Eastern inspired city. They're always like wrapping their heads. It's much more sandy. There's a line about like where Peyton's like, "Oh, everyone has like a much like beautiful darker complexion than me." Okay, that's our immediate introduction. And then after she says those words, like everyone here has a darker complexion to me, every single other world building detail we get from there until they leave the city is her talking about how horrible it is. She talks about how the people are meaner and rougher and ruder here. We're meeting much more thugs. We're talking about how the streets aren't safe, how they're poor. Like I don't know. Like if you want your magical power capital to be like the white people capital and the door to be like the Middle Eastern inspired,
Yeah, it felt like Star
city,
Wars. It
like
was like,
maybe
what?
we should highlight a little bit more like do a little bit of research, highlight some like positive qualities. Maybe we shouldn't just talk absolute trash on this city from there out.
Yeah,
It felt a
exactly.
little icky.
Like, let's add like a little plot, device of like, oh, she meets these people and helps them, or like, you know,
Yeah.
something that's just more kind. Oh,
Yeah.
the audiobook controversy. Okay, so like I said, I read this on
Mhm.
my Kindle and then I also listened to some of it. And people, I didn't notice this, but also I don't care. On TikTok, the
Mhm.
book talk investigators have found that there are some changes between the audiobook and the book. Okay, so and what was it? Chapter 37 is like the
I
biggest.
37 or 39, one of
Okay,
those.
regardless, for this once again just looks horrible on Simon and Schuster. And the thing is
Yep.
I don't really care that maybe there's an issue. My thing is like this would be one thing if this is like a new author that's
Mhm.
self-published and like this audiobook company is gonna whatever. This audiobook had 3 different narrators for the characters, which screams money to me. And this book is from a big publisher, fucking
Big
Simon and
5.
Schuster. One
Yeah.
yeah, one of the oldest in the game. Like why was there a mistake? It feels rushed and it feels like no one cared.
Yeah, and such a large mistake. Like, it's not like there was, like, a word tweak that, like, they just I mean, I'm
I hear
assuming
that
what
sometimes.
happened is that the audiobook people didn't get the final version of the draft. Like, clearly, they, like, sent a draft, too early of a version, or the published version is an earlier draft. Like, something had to have happened because there are paragraphs, like, sentences different. That is wild. That is wild that no
So
one
crazy.
checked
It's
this.
so crazy. So anyways, that's like the hot piping tea on
Yeah.
that. Let us know what you think. And the last thing before we get into our spoiler section here,
Mhm.
because I'm sure the people here have read the book and they want to hear our endless thoughts on this, is
Yes.
our star rating. I rated this 2 stars.
Uh-huh.
I don't know, I put in my book like pacing sucks, the plot didn't make any sense, and for someone who loves banter, I can't stand it anymore because of this book.
Is it even banner at that point? I feel like banter requires tension, and there was no tension.
Well, the thing is, it would be banter, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, but I'm gonna kill you," and she's like, "Oh,
Ha
really?"
ha ha.
And then they'd go back to bantering, and then how many times in this book, just be warned, and maybe Aubrey has a sound on the sheet, we get a one bed trope probably 3 to 4 times. So, hence why one of my favorite tropes, by the way. I'm over it.
No, yeah.
Mhm.
I,
It's a 2 for me, sis.
it's a 2 for me as well. I said on Goodreads, I had hoped to love this book after feeling entertained but disappointed with the first. However, this book, while missing the heavy overdose inspiration elements of the first, is somehow worse. The storytelling is just bad. The plot was the same thing over and over again. The characters have no growth or change. The romance was, at best, unrealistic, at worst, cringy and annoying. And the writing style, I put that in quotation marks, if you can even call it that, got horrendous. The amount of overwriting, explaining, and telling forced me to skim the later half of this book, and I don't think I missed a thing. It felt like beating a dead horse.
Okay, PR. She's like, check, 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 check. Like you went like down the
I know.
list
I
of
hit
like
all my
I'm
points
covering
and
you weren't like it sucked. You were like, this is why, and I'm
yeah.
justifying these. And if because sometimes I'll read those reviews and I'm like, oh yeah, actually that person's really right. Like, oh shit, they're
Wait a
right.
minute. Yeah, like it's your favorite book, and
That
you're like,
that'll get you from a 4-star to a
they're making
3-star
some
really quick.
points.
The smart people are talking.
Yeah, I read Powerful as well, and for
I
that,
did
I
too.
also gave it like 2 stars or 1 star.
I gave it
Um,
3 stars because I understood and I enjoyed what she was trying to do. But once again, I think her writing style got in the way.
yeah. Yeah, I think but I put for that one, I just was like 1 star, 2 stars, and I was like, at least this one had original plot.
Yes. Oh, that's great. All right, everyone,
Ugh.
we're going to jump into our spoiler section here.
Yes.
Please stay if you've read the book and we are going to chat about this. All right.
Uh,
So, for the spoilers, Aubrey. So we
mm.
switch every week who does the script, and I love when Aubrey gets book reviews cuz she's so thorough and like really like has those pinpoints of like great conversation points. And this one's great because the first one is the endless I've got you. No, I got you.
It was
um
so
it's so
ridiculous.
true. It's like in Powerful, if you've read that, she's like, I'm a
Mhm.
lover, not a fighter. It's like, stop saying it. It was cool the first time, but like, stop.
Was it?
No, it wasn't.
The
But that was her
concept
character.
the
That's her
concept was cool. The
Yeah.
concept of having someone who's soft was cool. I did not need to read in my fantasy book the words "I'm a lover, not a fighter." Like,
It's so
where did you get
what
that?
is that in
Pinterest
10th
circa
grade?
2009?
This is so funny because in 10th grade, and I
Mhm.
forget the like literary term for it, and I'm mad right now. It's not an idiom, is it? Anyways, so it's when you say something that's been used a lot. So in like my English teacher never let us say like soapbox or
Oh, yeah. I think
like once upon a time there was like I don't know what those are called, but she literally would take off points if we used those like
no, yeah, I like
introductory.
an idiom. You're right.
Oh my god, okay, grammar
That's what
queen.
I thought, but because
I
you were so
was
unsure,
like
I was like, maybe I'll
I
Google
pulled
it.
I pulled that out of not the back brain, but like the bottom of the back brain. I was like, I think that's
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah.
Anyways, so basically Lauren loves using idioms constantly in her books.
Mhm.
The going that's just a touch back to powerful. It's once again like why,
Why?
you know, we in Throne of Glass we get to whatever end and but she uses them at the right points where it's very like oh
Yeah.
shit. It's not like every
Well,
time these characters, go through something, right?
it's so overdone. Yeah, I think like another one of my bigger critiques of this and her writing style in general, and it was less noticeable and powerless, but everything is done at the exact same level. Like everything is given the same amount of like angst. Like she wants to have the angstiest writing, but angst only works if you have like the non-angsty times. You know what I mean? Like it should be a roller coaster. There's a reason that that is how people like plot
Show
things.
it, rising
But
action,
when
climax,
we
falling
treat
action.
someone like having a normal conversation with the same intensity of our like dagger to throat scene, then that
Like this
dagger to
whole
throat
podcast
scene means
episode.
nothing to me. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so I oh also for my little I want to be mean for a little bit.
Have we not?
Powerless, I was so fucking angry that it was so similar to the plot of Red Queen specifically. It has a lot of Hunger Game elements that didn't make sense, but we had like at least this basic idea of like plotting of a trials. Took a lot of scenes from the Red Queen, like how the book gets introduced, the dancing scenes, like the idea of the main character wearing a different color dress we've seen a billion times before. And some of these things are tropes, and some of these things, like starting the book off by the girl stealing from the prince because she's poor and then immediately getting thrown into their world and trials and stuff, that's it draws a line. But I was like so angry about that, and I thought that this book would be better because it doesn't have those. But it turns out, without directly stealing from other people's plots, girl can't write a plot. She can't do it on her own. I wish she would have stole. I wish she would have taken someone's work and added a little more plot to this book.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Yeah, it's like she had all this inspiration, which is like great. And I've seen
Yeah.
Victoria Aviar talk about this on her TikTok that it's great to go into a book with an idea and a passion,
Mhm.
but like don't let it drop off then. Like you bitch, you committed to the bit. Like you
Yeah.
gotta keep elements from it to keep us intrigued. But I'm sorry, like I'm not invested in the story anymore because I don't other than the cliff ending, like the cliff.
Yeah.
Oh my god. It's cliff
The cliffhanger.
cliffhanger. Oh my god. My brain rot after reading this book. After that, like I guess like but this whole book takes place in a fucking desert and they're just running around for some reason and getting kidnapped and I don't understand it. So,
I
anyways,
So Kai tries to kidnap her in the city.
yes.
Lets her get away. Then Peyton joins a fighting ring. Kai comes and tries to kidnap her. They kind of get away. Then Kai captures her and takes her into the desert. Then the resistance miraculously shows up and Peyton
Takes
is now the jailer. Then they wake up kidnapped by some random fighter guy. Then they like Kai puts the chain around her. Then later they run into gangs, so they almost get kidnapped again. And then later we have the bandits. This is 8 times in this book. The
I
entire middle
was
of the plot where it's the same thing over and over again. It is
the,
that is the same
the
thing.
taking from her friends to the like guy who ran the fighting ring gambler dude.
What the fuck?
I w- I was like, wait, she's not with those people any like I was fucking confused what was going on. Like,
Yeah.
what was
I
going on? And then they're running away from gamblers, but they're not the same gamblers. And how many times do we have to hear the word silver savior? Like, I'm over.
I swear to God, I thought that I missed a chapter
Me too.
between, like, she was like, the other guy's like, I'll take night shift. We go to sleep. And then we wake up and like there was never an explanation for that. There was never an explanation for how the resistance found her in the desert. But when the resistance showed up, I was like, okay, like that was unfulfilling for the resistance to just show up, five guys to miraculously kill what I can assume is some of the best guards that like Kai would have only brought his best. But I was like, whatever. Like, of course, the resistance was a strong part of book one. They're going to be in book two. What the fuck? We never
Yeah.
see the resistance again.
No. No, we don't. I think there's even a scene where Kai gets back and Kit's like, "Where did your men go?" Or like one of the officers is like, "Where
Yeah,
are the
yeah,
men?"
yeah.
He's like, "Oh, we lost them." It's like,
Well, there were some complications.
oh, when they wake up in the prison when they got kidnapped like the fourth time or whatever,
Mhm.
and he's like, he's like, "I'm thinking of a color." And he's like, "It's gray. What here's gray?" And she's like, "Oh, this, or that." And I'm like, "Oh my god, it's gonna end because her name's fucking Peyton Gray." Am I losing it? It's supposed to be like, "You silly cat, it's you." And then they like, like it's supposed to
Yeah.
be funny.
Uh-huh.
And no, it wasn't. It was the stone on the outside of the building. What? You had the perfect opportunity. I'm like, oh, she's lining us up for like the alley oop. Like we're gonna dunk. Like
Mhm.
this is gonna be like it's stupid, but once again that little
Yeah.
banter, like they're in a prison cell together. It's gonna be funny and silly. And I'm like, he's gonna go, Peyton, it's you. And she's like, oh my god, my last name's Gray.
Ha. He's thinking
No,
of
it's
me.
the fucking stone on the outside of the prison. And she's like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "That's it. I lost all hope
It's
for this book."
so childish. And I say this with the love of my heart. I know it's YA. I have never read YA so childish before. This sounds like it should be middle grade. Okay, so let's go back in time a bit to the first kiss. They didn't kiss in Powerless, so at least they're kissing now.
Yeah, they kiss a bit in this book. Yeah, because they kiss and then they have to act like they don't like each other. He's like, "Okay, I'm gonna kill you now."
Yeah.
And like all of this, honestly, gonna be quite frank, is a fucking blur in my head. All
So
of this.
fair.
I
That's why I
remember
did.
when they go to
Yeah.
like the hotel room and they like, wait, is that right? Yeah, they jump in.
Eventually.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
they got the chain. Oh, also, can we like? I just have a question about this chain. I don't mean to skip
Mhm.
ahead if you have something planned that you're gonna say next, but how they like climb ladders and shit.
This was the question I was talking about earlier that she was asked. How long
Oh,
is the chain? Is that what you were
yeah,
about to
because
say?
I am
Uh-huh.
so confused. Because at one moment it's really long, and then another moment they're just walking through the street and hiding it. So, like, is
Yeah,
this like a flexi lead like a dog has where it's like retractable, you can lock it.
I
She
think they
can
said
run
that they
away and
wrapped it around her ankle when they were walking on the street, so that way, like, as long as they're right next to each other and with the skirt. But anyway, her answer to the question, because they were like, how long is this? We're doing a lot. This doesn't make a lot of sense. And she goes, yeah, in my head, in my canon, I'm like, you're the author, for one. Okay. In my canon, it's like 3 feet or however much you need to like ride a horse or whatever. She goes, but it's fantasy. I get that it's fantasy, and there's a lot that I can wave away just because it's fantasy. But there's nothing fantastical about this chain. And actually, like, what in the Wattpad did we come up? Like, he links a chain to her. Like,
like
how
it's
is that?
fantasy and he has powers. Like, let's pull a really cool thing of like they're tethered together magically, or like he
Yeah.
put in something to her that if she'd leave, you know, let's do the old tattoo up the arm shit. If you know, you know. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
And I know it's less romantic, but it makes literally no sense for him to have chained it around his ankle too.
Well,
Like he
it's
should have been holding
confusing.
it like a leash.
It's confusing to me. It's
Because
confusing, and I don't care if like the length doesn't matter, but I was distraught reading this because I read and I watch it like a movie in my head,
uh-huh.
and I am here
You can't.
trying to get into it, and you're like, how are they going up the ladder, and how are they running away from people if they're fucking chained and like climbing walls? May I add? So, anyways, I'm happy that you clarified that was the stupid question, but it's not stupid because it's important.
It was a good question for the readers to have. She just
Yeah.
didn't give a good answer.
Oh.
Um and you'd think about that and have a better answer prepared after you it's such a pivotal part of the book. I don't know, I just so much of this is just repetitive and overdone. Like I just why did we do this? Why did all of this happen? Like I'm looking at the list of the things that I wrote out and there's just like so much that I just don't care about. If I have to read the word pretend one more time in my life,
Yeah, pretend.
I'm going to like erase that. Book 3, Fearless, do not put the word pretend in.
If you put pretend, I'm gonna die.
I don't even know if
Okay.
I'm going to read it. I don't know if I can. Like I probably will have to for the podcast. But
this
like
episode needs to get enough love from me to do that.
yeah.
Okay, so can we talk about this lore dump?
Yes. Yes. Okay. So we're going to skip far ahead because you've seen it. We've seen it.
I
Let's
The
go to
thing
it.
is like you guys read this book, you kind of understand like,
You're
and
tired
I
too.
can't think of anything I really want to talk about. Like,
No.
unless you actually loved the story, you'd be like, remember when
Mhm.
they got caught and she was taking her shower, and like I don't know though. You know, that's all right.
Mhm.
They pretend. That's it. They
They
pretend.
pretend. Yes, let's go to this lore dump.
This is important to
Because
the story.
we are now finally at the very end of this book, and that is unfortunate because I think that had she erased all the middle section of this book, if instead of it being a trilogy, it had been a duology, if in the first 10 chapters of Reckless slash Fearless, you know what I mean? Like if she had combined the two books, we had got Peyton escaping from the city, getting caught by Kai, him bringing her back, getting this lore dump, and then getting the very cliffhanger. If that was in the first 10 chapters, that would be so fucking good. That would be so good. If we only got one, like, knife to the throat kiss, and then, like, the whole time they're trying to pretend like they hate each other, but there was no revelation in this bit that they forgive one another. No, duh.
Yeah,
No, duh. We didn't even try to pretend like they didn't like each other. Okay.
because we
Anyways,
knew.
anyways.
Yeah.
So this is the start. What I wish had happened sooner. We learned that the disease is in fact a lie from Daddy's journal, which we've had for how long?
How long? She didn't open it just to get a
What the
sneak
fuck?
peek. She's like,
If
"Oh yeah, I have this journal. Let's burn it."
if my
And
dad
then
was dead
I would
and
open
I
that shit
had his
right away.
journal,
Like in the desert when she was just chilling there.
would you?
Fucking
Yeah.
crack that bitch open like it's a beer. Like,
Oh
I
my god.
seriously don't get it.
Don't
Anyways,
get it.
we find
So
out a couple things. Yeah, that shit is a
yes,
lie.
Noda.
No doubt.
I get like they don't know that there are main characters in a book. Like that's a big revelation for them. We learned that Peyton is adopted.
Cool.
Cool.
I'm happy that we had like another little plot point there other than their banter. So yeah, bitch is adopted, which she is like not okay with and very upset about.
Yeah, I get it, but
Obviously.
like
I get it. But like as Lauren said, it's just fantasy.
it's just fantasy. Well, and that's the thing. I would have sympathized with her so much about her reaction to finding out she was adopted if I wasn't so bone dead tired at this point. Tired of
So
reading this book,
tired.
tired of hearing her thoughts, tired of her reactions. Like she looks stupid. She looks so fucking stupid in how she's interacting with Kai. Like Kai, I get it. He's still doing his job the whole time, trying his best to get her back. He Kit said alive, so he has like this like good reason for not killing her. He has a good reason to like talk to her along the way. She just looks like an idiot. She just looks like a Anyways, so I just didn't give a fuck. I didn't give a fuck for her. I didn't care. Sorry, that sucks. Moving on. Kai had
The
a
next
sister.
one is yeah, Guy's sister Ava who died. I feel like this was his way of like showing his like humanity, which like
Yeah.
we already have seen. Like he hasn't fucking killed the bitch yet, and he could have already. Like he doesn't really need to show us. And I was waiting
Yeah.
for Ava. Like I was like, did you see the body? Did you see the body? Because is that bitch still alive and she's
True.
gonna come back?
Potentially.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
You know, the whole sticky bun thing. Um
Did you see she said that she doesn't even like honey? That like she doesn't even like the sticky bones. And when she was writing the scenes, she got grossed out.
do a
I
cinnamon
got grossed
roll
out
then.
reading
Like
them. Like I get she came from a good place. She was like, "Oh, I love when fantasies have like their own unique food or word curses, so that's like plagues." I was like, "So," and she's like, "I love cinnamon buns, but they wouldn't have cinnamon, they'd have honey based off of the world building." I was like, "What world building?" Um, but like I don't maybe we could have just picked a different food then.
I was ready for this bitch to like call up an Uber and
Yeah.
get back to this.
Like sticky bones is so fucking modern.
Sticky
So
buns. Like I don't know. Do literally anything else. Yeah, just do a
uh
cinnamon roll or like I don't know, it was fucking like blueberry scones or something. Like
let's
there's like
yeah, like a
you
scone sounds so much more medieval than
yeah,
that. Like I can't
a
picture
sticky bun.
and even the word sticky bun. Like we couldn't have picked a fantasy
It's so
word. Like we couldn't have come up with something better than a sticky bun.
like
I
this
can
isn't
get a
even
sticky
on
bun
this
a giant right now.
I haven't had a sticky bun since I was like 10.
Yeah,
Anyways,
this
a
is
honey bun. I used to eat those all the time. Little Debbie, I love that
yeah.
shit. Okay. So Kai has a sister Ava who died because she got sick.
So sad.
So sad. So sad.
Whatever.
Oh, you know what was cool
Yeah.
is when their mother is dying and
Yeah.
Kit goes to see her. Once again, love the
Mhm.
Kit scenes. And she's like, "You know everything you already need to know," or whatever. And like
Yeah.
that whole, he gets that kind of like kumbaya moment with
Mhm.
his mom. And then he goes and reads the letter his dad left for him, and it's like, "Get your shit together, kid. Are you gonna be a villain or not? We need
Yeah.
to know."
Well, and here's the thing is that Kit to me was the most interesting book character in this book because he was actually complex. I truly didn't know if he was setting off on his villain arc or not. He was
Yeah,
wrestling with some stuff. I think we could have had a little less Kit chapters in the same way we could have had a little less chapters in general
general.
because
Yeah,
there was a certain point where like we were just hitting the same beats in his chapters.
like we get you're not fucking eating, like whatever.
Yeah, like, there wasn't a lot of plot going on, but there was a lot of emotional turmoil that made sense, that was complex, and we could see him changing, which we don't get out of the other 2.
Yeah.
So
So it's crazy how Ava just randomly gets brought up and all of this, kind of
yeah.
like right at the end.
Yeah, I know,
So
Ava was, sprinkled a little bit throughout from, Kai's POV, but, like, does it even matter?
and
Did it
Kit
even
mentions it
matter?
once.
Yeah. So
Anyways,
then we
so
get
to the
right outside of the city.
Lafectionos. Yes.
He has taken her eyesight of the city walls. And one, why did we stop to sleep?
Yeah.
Like we were a 10-minute walk away.
This whole time I'm like, well, is he actually gonna take her or what? Like
Yeah.
I didn't know. And I'm like, I knew he had to because he's like rustling his male ego, and he's like, I
Yeah.
have a job to perform. I'm the enforcer, and she's like, you suck, and she really could have gotten away from it. This is a fantasy book. She could have gotten away, but no, she's
Yeah.
like, fine, I'll go. And here they are, right outside the city walls. And
And he's
then
like, actually, I love you. Go, be free.
I'll come find you, even if it's another lifetime. Like that whole like fantasy, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
I don't
you
know.
this is not the time to say that. You took her this far. It's like me saying
Well,
I want McDonald's, showing up to the parking lot and being like, nah, I don't want it anymore. It's like, why do we
actually,
go?
never mind. Well, what's so insane is that all of these obstacles we've been facing make no fucking sense. What she could have done, another option to add to the table, is she could have had, like, as soon as Kai gets to Peyton and they're together and they kiss, then him to be like, I can't do this. I don't know what Kit's going to do to her. I cannot turn her in. And he's like, you know what? Never mind. And then she says, because in this narrative, the resistance didn't show up for only a chapter. She says, actually, I need to go back to the city now that you're not hunting me and my life's not on the line, because I need to see what happened to the resistance and I want to protect my people. And then they still travel back and we can have all the fluff in between, but now these characters aren't using the word pretend. Now these characters have made a definite decision. We can still have obstacles, and then as they're going in, you could have still had the same scene where Kai's like not actually against her but has to pretend that he is once the guards show up. Like, it just could have been done so much better.
Yes. And so when they show up to the castle,
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, it's like we got a whole, other book. We know they're not gonna cut
Yeah,
off her head. So like,
that would be interesting. That would have been a plot twist.
yeah, there's a whole other love interest we didn't know about this whole time. It turns into like a Kit love story. Ties out. Anyways, and then Kit's like, "You're gonna be my wife," and Kai literally, like, he's very accepting of it right away. He's like,
Yeah,
I will love her from afar.
from afar.
instead, instead of being like, oh wow, like this isn't okay. We need to get her out of here. He's like, I will love her from afar. I'll learn how
Yeah.
to make this work and I'll be the person I need to be for her. It's like, wait, you just found out something life altering. And nonetheless, it's your fucking brother. And you're just gonna be like, it's all right.
It's okay. I'll watch them be happy together.
Yeah, like he just accepted, like, oh yeah,
And like,
she'll want this.
yeah, like Peyton's not happy with the situation. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I like
Make it make
working
sense.
towards that point. I understand that is a good cliffhanger, but it wasn't good enough for the
Y'all, it's
middle of
not
this
it.
book.
It's not it. It's not it.
Not
You know what
it.
is it? Liking and subscribing this podcast. Guys, I don't really have much more to say, and we've talked about
I
this.
have nothing else to say.
Enough.
I am sorry that I was mean in this video. I'm not always this mean, but also sometimes I am.
The thing is it's like I don't think if you like this book, you are here to this point.
No, no. So if you
We're all
did,
haters at this
if you're
point.
also a little mean at your heart, a little spiteful at a bad book,
We're here. Hey, all books have bad reviews, and some just have more than others. So
everyone's a little bit bad on the inside.
yeah, so please like and subscribe. If you do it enough, I will trash read Reckless, Fearless
I will.
as
I
well.
want, and I'm
I mean,
so
I could have told you
scared.
that title like 10 years ago if I would have known. Anyways. So like and subscribe. Follow us. We are on Apple Podcasts now. So you actually may be just
Yes.
listening to this episode on Apple Podcasts. So welcome. Please leave us a review on the streaming platforms because that actually helps boost us up. So
Yes.
more people can hear about the hardcover and become our
Mhm.
friends. So we love having you guys.
Yes. Thank y'all so much for joining us and happy reading.
Just not this book.
Yeah.